So here we go, we're going to go with a whiteboard video. Feels like a few days since I've done a whiteboard video, and we're going to go through a stock that I have sold. I sold all my position in this stock, and once again it was a massive return that we've hit on the YouTube channel, adding to the long list of stocks we've made a good profit on. And I sold this stock for a 45% return, although at some points it's a stock that I've actually been selling over the last 6 months, and at some points I actually added this into the 100% return club. So even though these shares weren't as high as the 100% return, I'm still very happy with the money that I'm making. And at the end of the day, what are we all here to do as investors? We're all here to make money. And I've just seen a few things that have been deteriorating inside the company and a few things that I'm not happy about, and that's why I sold this stock. So I'll go through this with you guys in a second on the reasons why I sold this stock and which stock this is. But if you are on the Patreon, go check out the US stock market portfolio review, and I'll also be dropping a live Q&A session in a few hours time. And if you do want to see exclusive videos on there and the live buy and sell alerts when I am buying and selling the companies, join through the link in the description. It's only £5 a month. And as well as that, if you want to get yourself some free shares, join Trading 212. That's the investing platform that I use. And if you join through that link, you might get a free share worth up to £100. But we'll go through this company that I sold all my shares out of, I think it was about 3 weeks ago after their earnings, and I'll go through the reasons why I sold this stock. So the stock that I sold out was Celsius, CELH, and I sold this after earnings. And since I sold this stock 3 weeks ago, the stock has been on a little bit of a decline. I think the reason why is a few people are like me, looking at those earnings and going, they weren't great. Even though actually when the earnings came out, there was a bit of a pop off, but since then it sold it all off. So looks like it was a good time to be selling this business. Now, the reasons why I sold Celsius. So there's a couple of reasons why it built up for me to sell out of this position. The first of all is, and this wasn't a massive one, but I thought this was poor. I had some issues with the business, and I wanted to get clarity from the management team what was going on. And when I actually emailed the investor relations, that were very basic answers about certain products, they did not respond to my emails. Now, I did send them around about 6 emails, so that's a fair amount of emails, and they didn't respond to any of them. Now, I can understand sometimes they cannot potentially release that information. Why? Or potentially they are just generally a little bit busy or they lose your emails. But I feel like on some of their emails, they could have got back to me. So the fact that I sent them 6 emails to the investor relation team and none of them replied, I thought that was pretty poor from the investor relation team and management. Next one was valuation. The valuation on Celsius is pretty rich. Now, I'll probably be showing you the metrics on the screen right now, and I can't remember exactly all the numbers off the top of my head, but as you can see here, if you look at a lot of the metrics like the price to sales, to enterprise value, to the EBITDA, to the forward earnings, it is a bit of a rich valuation. Now, the company can do very well at that valuation, but it needs to execute perfect. And if the company executes perfect, I'm probably going to look a little bit of an idiot for selling this business. However, I don't want to be taking that risk that it has to execute to perfection, because if there is one issue inside this business or something does go slightly wrong in this business, I think the share price can get punished. So if I'm executing in a stock that's priced to perfection, it does make me a little bit nervous, and the fact that it was a rich evaluation did play a little bit into this as well. Now, first of all, the first issue that I had 6 months ago, and this is why I actually started selling my shares out about 6 months ago, a lot of it was around the international plan. I was looking at Celsius and they were smashing the US. I had no problem with the US. The US was on fire. But I was looking at a lot of the other markets, like the expansion into the UK, Germany, Italy, France, and going international now. And I think if they're going to justify the valuation, they need to do what they've done in the US in the international markets. Now, the longer I was staring at that, the international markets weren't growing. At first, when I invested into this business, we were hearing about how much they were growing internationally. Within a few months, the international sales were actually declining or growing at a lot slower rates than what they would need to. And we weren't getting much of an update on how the international plan was going and the expansion potentially in marketing campaigns. And eventually it actually got to the point in the UK market where they actually started selling on Amazon, and then eventually they actually withdraw the products on Amazon on the UK, and it was like, well, you expanded into UK through Amazon and then you take all your products off. What's the point in that? And that was one of the things I was emailing about, what's kind of going on with the UK products at the moment, and there were no response there. So I was like, if we are going to command this valuation, we need to make sure that we are executing perfectly on the international platform, and it wasn't happening, and we weren't getting the details why. And I thought, okay, maybe it's something to do with the Pepsi deal, when the Pepsi deal was announced, and that's actually when I got the best price for my shares, when I sold them at that point. But once again, there wasn't much, even on the latest earnings call, there was no details on international expansion. I couldn't believe that. I was like, you've got this national distributor now in a worldwide distributor in like Pepsi, and you're not even still saying, oh, we're going for a major launch in the UK. We've got 2 UK supermarkets. We're going to do this big advertising campaign because we've got amazing cash balance now. There were nothing. And I was like, why are we now nearly a year and a half on from the Pepsi deal, or get a year and a half on, and there's still no clear path to the international expansion? Like, I was looking at the US side of it and I was like, I don't know on the US side of it if you could command the valuation just from the US sales. So I was a bit nervous from that point of view that they weren't expanding from this point of view. The next thing was the recent earnings once again. They missed on the EPS, and even when you factor in the one-time cost from the Pepsi transition, it was still a miss on the EPS, which we don't normally see. Revenue as well was a miss, which we don't normally see from the business. And also, there was slowing revenue. Q4 to Q3, quarter over quarter, the revenue actually declined, which wasn't good. I've personally never been in this business, even though it has happened previously once or twice. I've never been in this business where it actually declined quarter over quarter, which I thought wasn't positive either. And then, considering that we saw a decline in quarter over quarter, there was no outlook given. I was looking through and unless I missed it somewhere, I could not find any outlook given inside the business. And I was like, well, at least give us some confidence that you've just declined quarter over quarter. At least say, oh, Q1 guidance is going to be this, and you like look, oh, right, now it's going back in a positive direction. I couldn't even find anything on the guidance even. I was a little bit worried, and I was looking at analyst targets, and analyst targets are still very aggressive for this company this year, and if they can't do them targets, then the valuation once again doesn't make sense. So I was a bit like, that's not great either. So there was no outlook given, and there was also a warning comment on the conference call, and it was an analyst, and the analyst said on the conference call, they said, it's good to see that the data suggests, they were commenting on some data that they get, and they're saying, according to this data research, in the last 12 weeks, Celsius sales are up 80% or whatever it is. And the analyst actually goes, oh, it's good to see that you're guiding 80% going forward in Q1. And then like, no, that's just the data that we're getting now. We're not actually guiding for 80% in Q1. And it sounded like to me like they were actually going to be below that, which isn't good. And that was also a time for management to actually go, yeah, we should be back to 80% in Q1, or we're actually going to be above that. That was management's cue to kind of reinsure that the growth was still very strong in Q1. And the fact that they said, they were like, no, we're not doing that much in Q1, was like, so are you below it then in Q1? Like, are we going even lower? And it was a bit worrying, like management didn't give, like there was no outlook there. And the comments that were given on the outlook were a little bit like, no, we're not doing that. So that was also another thing that kind of worried me. The last point was Prime. So you guys probably see this big hype at the moment about the Prime energy drink in the US, in the UK. Now, a new major competitor, when you look at the numbers that Prime are actually doing at the moment, they've grown rapidly in like a year of launching. Insane rapid growth. So this is a new hot competitor, and potentially could this take some potential from Celsius? We'll see. The only thing that put me off more than actually the competitor side of it is the way that Prime have launched in the US and have launched in the UK and Europe. Like, they've done that in a year. Celsius have been a year and a half like, oh, well, we might sell a couple of things and we're going to take it. Like, Celsius have been so unclear on the international plan now that I feel like if Celsius was to launch in the UK, Europe, the heat has been stolen a little bit by the new kid on the block, Prime. And that was Celsius time to come in and take massive market share, get everyone excited, like the new hot energy drink that's going to be out there in the UK. And now you've got a major new competitor that has beaten you in a year's time to get to that massive international launch, where I think Prime in a year will potentially be doing more revenue than Celsius. And it's like, why haven't you moved as quick as what Prime moved? So I think the fact is that there's a new competitor in here, but the thing that worried me more is seeing how quick Prime has expanded in the international side of it, and Celsius is still mumbling around about where we're actually at with the international launch, which once again hasn't been clear from either the conference call or the investor relations team, and I didn't like that either. So that was another thing that kind of played in here, and all these factors kind of put me into the point of view where I was, and I think this was a bit of a tattooed chef kind of learning from the mistake there. When you start seeing a few things from management team that are a little bit questionable, you see the numbers being a little bit declining, to make that decision early on and think, well, I'm up on this position, I'm going to sell it out now. There's a few things I'm not happy about, and I'll see what happens in Q1. We'll get a lot more better information what the situation is like into Q1. Potentially it has a drop, maybe it goes up. If it has a drop, maybe the valuation gets a little bit better, maybe it goes back down to $45. Q1's actually okay, then it could potentially be reassure me and maybe I buy back into it. But at the moment, I looked at the risk to reward, and I looked at the reward and I thought this company has to be, the price it's at, it has to execute to perfection. And I looked at the risks and the few things that I was seeing, and I weren't getting the issues that I was seeing answered by the management team. So I thought, you know what, let's take the profit off the table here. And from here, I think I used the cash. I think 50% of my position I put straight back into the stock market within the next couple of hours after selling, and I think the other 50% I just kept in cash, and it's something that I'm just using that cash to buy a couple of things over the last few weeks, and that's worked out quite well because since we've had, or when I sold this position in Celsius, the stock market's had a little bit of a wobble the last couple of weeks, and I've been able to have a nice cash balance to just go out and buy a couple of things as well, which has been really good as well. So it's actually worked out quite well at the moment. So yeah, I thought I'd be transparent once again with you guys and show you all the moves that I'm making in the stock market, and I just updating you guys that a couple of weeks ago I did sell out my Celsius position. So hope you enjoyed the video as always, guys, and catch you in a bit.